In discussing indoor air quality work, there are basically two components to indoor air quality. There is general indoor air quality, which has to do with the overall condition of the air. But then there's the aspect that most people are focusing upon, which is mold. And the question is, why does a company like Apex get called to do a mold inspection? And it's usually one of three things. First is people either see mold or they smell unpleasant odors that are associated with things like decomposing garbage. Then there is the aspect of there having been a leak, and then in the weeks subsequent to the leak, one smells these odors or actually believes they see mold growing. Thirdly, are people who are complaining of cold, flu, or sinusitis-like symptoms where there is apparently no reason for this. Normally under these conditions, a company like Apex will be called to conduct what is called an inspection. And the inspection generally has two components. There is the visual inspection, in which the inspector enters the home and he visibly looks for the source of mold. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. Sometimes the mold is in plain sight, other times it's hiding behind walls where it is dark and moist. Whether it is visibly seen or not seen, the next aspect of the inspection is to actually do some sampling to determine the concentration and the types of molds that are present in the environment. Molds are ubiquitous. They are around us at all times. The problem is, when they are inside a home with the types of materials and the moisture content and the temperatures and the darkness, which are the conditions that are appropriate for the growth of mold, they will tend to replicate on the orders that are generally not seen in the outdoor environment. If a person is sensitive to them, they will suffer a variety of symptoms. The two ways that one samples for mold is to visibly go to the source of the mold and take a physical sample. This is referred to as a bulk sample. It is packaged and it's sent to the lab for species identification, concentration, and viability. Viability meaning, is the mold living or is it non-living? As breathing, or as we say in the industry, inhalation, is the #1 route of mold exposure, the primary way is to do an air sampling through what's called a media collection cassette, in which a trained laboratory technician at the laboratory can determine what the concentration of mold is with respect to both the inside environments as well as the outside environments. As general principle, if the count outside the residence or outside the commercial establishment is greater than inside, one might state that even though there might be mold growing, one may not be able to do an appropriate remediation. But 9 out of 10 times the situation is the reverse. The outside sampling shows a certain background quantity of mold, whereas the sampling inside is generally 2 to many times 50 times greater than it is outside. Normally under these conditions, we state to the client, you have a serious problem.